The most powerful weapon in human history. Most people believe social media is entertainment. It isn't. Social media is infrastructure. Psychological infrastructure. Because for the first time in human history, billions of people now carry attention manipulation systems in their pockets. Every hour, every day, every year. And most still believe they are using these platforms freely. But something much darker is happening underneath the surface. Because social media was never designed merely to connect people. It was designed to capture human attention. And once attention becomes controllable, human behavior becomes controllable too. This changed civilization permanently. Because throughout history, whoever controlled information controlled society. But social media evolved beyond information. It began controlling emotion, perception, identity, behavior, reality itself. And the terrifying part is, most people still do not fully understand the system they are trapped inside. Attention became the most valuable resource on Earth. Industrial society extracted oil. Digital society extracts attention. And attention became one of the most valuable assets in human history. Because attention eventually becomes money, influence, political power, consumer behavior, psychological leverage. This is why modern platforms aggressively compete for clicks, watch time, emotional reactions, outrage, addiction. Because the longer people remain emotionally engaged, the more profitable they become. This created an entirely new economic model. Human consciousness itself became monetized. And this changed the internet forever. Platforms no longer compete to inform users. They compete to capture and hold human attention for as long as possible. Which means social media companies are no longer technology businesses alone. They are behavioral engineering companies. The human brain was never prepared for this. Human psychology evolved over thousands of years. Social media evolved in less than 2 decades. And this created a dangerous imbalance. Because human beings were not biologically designed for infinite stimulation, constant notifications, algorithmic manipulation, endless comparison, perpetual dopamine loops. Yet billions now live inside those systems every day. This is why social media feels psychologically overwhelming. Because the platforms exploit ancient survival mechanisms inside the brain itself. Validation, tribal belonging, social comparison, novelty seeking, fear of exclusion. And algorithms learned how to weaponize those instincts at massive scale. This is why people compulsively refresh feeds, check notifications, seek validation, chase engagement, even when it damages their mental health. Because the system was engineered to make disengagement psychologically difficult. The business model depends on addiction. One of the darkest truths about social media is that addiction is not a side effect. It is the business model. Because platforms profit when users stay longer, scroll endlessly, react emotionally, return constantly. This is why algorithms prioritize outrage, fear, controversy, emotional intensity. Because calm people log off. Emotionally activated people continue scrolling. This is why negative content often spreads faster than rational content. And why social media increasingly rewards extremity, conflict, sensationalism, emotional polarization. The system does not optimize for truth. It optimizes for engagement. And engagement often means psychological stimulation, not accuracy. Social media rewired human identity. Before the internet, identity was mostly local. Family, community, physical relationships. But social media transformed identity into performance. Now, millions construct digital versions of themselves designed for visibility. This changed human behavior profoundly. Because people no longer simply live life. They increasingly perform life for attention, for validation, for relevance. And once identity becomes dependent on public approval, platforms gain enormous psychological power. This is why social media increasingly shapes self-worth, beauty standards, political beliefs, lifestyle aspirations, emotional behavior, and eventually, people begin viewing themselves through the eyes of algorithms. Comparison became constant. Human beings naturally compare themselves to others, but social media industrialized comparison. For most of history, people compared themselves to neighbors, classmates, local communities. Now people compare themselves to millions simultaneously. Celebrities, influencers, billionaires, perfect bodies, luxury lifestyles, curated success. And this creates constant psychological pressure because social media rarely shows reality. It shows optimized perception, highlight reels, filtered identities, algorithmically amplified status. And the human brain struggles to emotionally distinguish between reality, performance, manipulation. This is why anxiety and insecurity exploded during the social media era, because millions now experience life as endless psychological competition. Algorithms quietly shape reality. Most people believe they choose what they consume online, but algorithms increasingly choose for them. This is one of the most important shifts in modern civilization, because recommendation systems now shape information exposure, political narratives, emotional states, cultural trends, public attention itself, and most people never fully realize it, because algorithms operate invisibly. They quietly decide what appears, what disappears, what spreads, what becomes culturally dominant. This creates unprecedented influence over collective perception. Because once algorithms shape attention, they begin shaping reality itself. Virality changed human behavior. Social media also changed incentives, because visibility became currency. This created a dangerous psychological shift. People increasingly optimize behavior for attention, not truth, not wisdom, not depth, attention. This is why modern platforms reward controversy, exaggeration, emotional intensity, performative outrage, because emotional reactions drive distribution, and distribution creates visibility. Eventually, human behavior itself becomes optimized for algorithms. People learn what gets clicks, what gets views, what triggers engagement, and gradually, the platform begins shaping culture from underneath. Social media created digital herds. One of the most dangerous effects of social media is mass emotional synchronization, because billions now consume information simultaneously, and emotional contagion spreads rapidly online. Fear spreads, anger spreads, panic spreads, outrage spreads. This creates digital herd behavior at global scale. And once populations become emotionally synchronized, they become easier to influence collectively. This is why viral narratives can suddenly dominate global conversation within hours, because platforms amplify emotional momentum aggressively, and algorithms reward whatever keeps people engaged longest, even when it destabilizes society itself. The attention economy is destroying focus. Modern society increasingly suffers from attention fragmentation. People struggle to focus deeply, think long-term, remain mentally present, because social media trains the brain for constant stimulation. Short clips, rapid scrolling, instant novelty, perpetual interruption. And over time, this changes cognition itself. Deep thinking becomes harder. Patience weakens. Concentration declines. And this creates massive societal consequences, because civilizations are built through long-term thinking, strategic planning, sustained attention. But the attention economy profits from distraction. not depth. Children grew up inside the system. One of the most disturbing aspects of social media is that entire generations grew up inside algorithmic environments. Children now encounter dopamine loops, validation systems, algorithmic comparison, digital dependency, before fully understanding themselves psychologically. This may become one of the largest social experiments in human history, because no civilization has ever exposed billions of developing minds to attention engineering systems at this scale before, and nobody fully understands the long-term consequences yet. Social media turned humans into data. Every click, every swipe, every pause, every emotional reaction now becomes measurable data. And data became one of the most valuable resources in the world. Because once human behavior becomes predictable, it also becomes influenceable. This is why modern platforms obsess over engagement metrics, behavioral prediction, retention systems, recommendation algorithms, because behavioral data creates enormous economic power. And eventually, platforms may understand human psychology better than users understand themselves. AI may make this far more powerful. Artificial intelligence may intensify this dramatically. Because AI can optimize persuasion at massive scale. Future systems may personalize feeds, advertisements, emotional triggers, behavioral influence, psychological manipulation in real time, for billions simultaneously. This creates a terrifying possibility. A world where algorithms continuously adapt to human psychology more efficiently than human beings can resist them. And most people still believe social media is simply entertainment. The future of control may be psychological. Throughout history, powerful institutions controlled land, military force, financial systems, industrial infrastructure. But modern systems increasingly control attention itself. And whoever controls attention increasingly controls behavior, culture, emotion, political influence, economic activity. This may become the defining power struggle of the digital era. Not merely the battle for information, but the battle for human consciousness itself. Because once attention becomes programmable, society becomes programmable too. And perhaps this is the darkest truth about social media. People believed they were using the platforms, but eventually, the platforms began using them. Subscribe to Wealth OS for more documentaries on wealth, power, AI, and the hidden psychology behind modern society.